were you into social media like you are now when you were at school? Or is it only really started propping up now?
No, I think I'm 30 now, so giving it away, but I'm almost 30. So no, I sort of grew up with Facebook came in, everyone was on Facebook, MSN Messenger, all that stuff. I don't know if you even know what MSN Messenger is.
BBM and stuff like that. Blackberries, I think that's once. I think Snapchat slowly started to phase in at that point as well when I started to get into social media.
So I think it's always been there in the background, and I've always been on it, but I've never wanted. I'll be completely honest. My girlfriend's she's on Insta, or she uses Instagram quite a lot. And I hate the term, but influencers, and there'll be certain people that she follows. Yeah. And I always used to sort of, I choose my words carefully, but I was always used to sort of quite quick to slate some influencers, just because I just think, I don't really like the idea of sort of going on just to sell something or spouting opinions about something you haven't really got much of an idea about. And then, like you with the podcast, I sat down, it must have been around about March time last year. And I was like, look, I've done quite a bit already in the property area. I've studied marketing at uni.
They kind of go hand in hand then in some regard.
Yeah, it's sort of both my skills sort of, as you say, sort of gone hand in hand, merged together. So it went quite well to start with. I think I set up a TikTok account knowing absolutely nothing about TikTok. And I was like, right, look, I've got a bit of free time. I like property. I know this area. I'll just start making videos trying to help. Initially, it was to help people in a way to sort of, I don't know, sort of dispel myths, or if you're a first time buyer, what should you be looking at? How do you find a property? All that sort of stuff. Yeah. So, I set one up with just a couple of videos, and they sort of did quite well.
How did you find making that first video? Was it a little bit nerve-wracking or not? Because I find when I posted my first video, I was absolutely bricking it. Because I had no clue. Obviously, you've made something, you've probably tried very hard to make it the best you can. Yeah. And being social media, anyone can slate you online or anything. So how was that, making that first video when you first pressed publish on it?
Yeah, you know what? I think where you start quite humbly with sort of 0 followers, you don't really expect anyone to see it. So I think, I'll be honest, when I was filming it was a lot of takes. I'd sort of stop it, look at it, watch it, think, I don't like that one, start again. So I remember it. I was talking about mortgages, walking around a rugby pitch back at where my parents live. I think it's probably still on my TikTok actually, but I don't know. I wouldn't say I was nervous. I just wanted to make sure that I was sort of getting my point across, that I wasn't going to get pulled up on anything, especially with property. There's so many people who are going to sort of turn around and say, you're doing it wrong, or I don't agree with that. And I can agree. I can get behind people who've got a difference of opinion. That's fine. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. But it's when I just didn't want anyone to be sort of, I don't know, negative or sort of attacking me as a person. Yeah,
no one really wants that. Critical of what you say. It's more about you personally. No, it's right. You personally and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. I think I've got thick skin. I can take a few people saying, don't agree with you with that. But when they're firing abuse, I haven't really had it. I've been quite lucky. But if you get the occasional person who's firing abuse across, I'm kind of like, I'm not really here for this. Like, I set it up to try and help people. I don't really know why I'm getting this. I've told you what I think about a mortgage. Why are you having a pot?
Like, it's into like an essay on why that property guy deserves to not have a TikTok account or something.
Literally, yeah.
So when did obviously you say you studied marketing, has that been did you do that at school and then it went into uni and college and stuff?
Yeah, I think at college I did business, media, English. So I've always liked sort of the creative side. I've always liked making money. So I just tried to sort of combine what I was good at. I was always quite good at like maths, and I was good at business at college. And I just think I like the idea of sort of being creative and trying to use that to sort of, I worked in sales for a bit, sell products, sort of understand why people buy things, make decisions. Marketing was just a good all-rounder, I guess. I think it's funny actually, people sort of say, what's the best career to get or best thing to study if you're trying to get into property? And I do always say that I wouldn't say there is one. I think there's loads of different avenues. I've sort of proved that I did marketing and sort of somehow ended up in property. Obviously it's helped with TikTok and Instagram. But I think I wouldn't say sort of marketing. I didn't want to study marketing when I was, I don't know, sort of 16. I think it's sort of I just sort of fell into it. I think I assessed my options for, I could do something to do with business, I could do something to do with economics. And then I thought, look, I studied media. I quite like the whole film, kind of like what you're doing as well. And then just thought, I'll give marketing a go. It's a good sort of all-rounder, and this is sort of this is where it's ended up.
And where did property come into it? Because obviously you're saying, you know, you're into marketing, media, creative. Where did property suddenly fly into your life?
It did fly in as well.
It's the correct terminology then.
Literally, that's
randomly.
It was. Oh, you know what? It was. I'd say it's pretty random. I think I put an Instagram story out yesterday about this, but I was saving up from about 16. I've always been quite good with money. Always wanted to save up. Initially, it was to go traveling. So I think like most people, sort of who are 14, 15, 16, they got aspirations to sort of travel the world. They want to go and see everything, do everything. I was no different. So I had 2 part-time jobs when I was 16, saved up as much as I could. As we spoke about earlier, I didn't learn to drive. I didn't do X, Y, Z, get the latest phone. So I was saving up with the idea to spend that on, sort of 3 or 4 grand, maybe going across the world. That followed through into uni, travelled home at uni to save up. And then I got to probably about sort of 20, 21, and people were sort of making that decision. Once they graduated, they went off and did a bit of travelling. Yeah. And I was like, I could do that. But look, I'm sitting on this quite a lot of money that I've saved up. It wasn't easy to do it. It took quite a long time. Do I just want to go and not throw it all away? Because I would have enjoyed travelling for 2-3 years. But I was like, look, I could put it to better use, get on the property ladder. And just potentially, I mean, the plan is now still to go travelling later in life. Okay. So it was a bit of a U-turn. Like it was never property from sort of 15, 16, 17.
It did fly in literally.
Literally did.
You wanted to do one thing. Was that kind of like delayed gratification in a way? The fact that rather than going to travel and spend that money and not waste it, because you make memories. But put it into something that potentially could make you money.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think initially, and I think a lot of people were surprised by this, especially with sort of the following that I've got. I was never really looking to property I didn't ever really aspire to be sort of a property investor, like a TikTok influencer in the property area. Yeah. I think I initially just wanted to get onto the property ladder because I knew it was a safe bet to have your own house, somewhere where you can sort of put your money in, sort of watch it grow. You obviously gain from capital gains and the increase in property value. I always did it probably quite maybe boringly, or sort of as just a way to sort of get myself up in life, just to have a foot on the ladder. You know what? A lot of people save up a lot of money for a long period of time, and I've got an opportunity to do it now. Admittedly, I had to relocate. It wasn't as easy as maybe I've just made it out, made it seem.
There wasn't a straight road. There's lots of pitfalls.
There's a lot of things you've got to learn, and there's a lot of sort of things, traps you can fall into. But it was always to just buy a place that I could go in, call it my own. I think the first place I bought, which isn't too far away from where we are now, just down the road, I bought it to, as I say, have my own place. It was never going to be a forever home. Yeah. But I was like, I just need to get on the ladder. And being in South London, which is where I'm originally from, that was never going to be an option. I went to uni here, so I'm quite familiar with the sort of the areas. Yeah. People still, a lot of my mates are still down here as well. So I was like, I could look a bit further afield, which is what I ended up doing. And it kind of happened quite quickly. I think I was in a job in South London, and just thought, look, I'm going to go and take the plunge, go and buy a house. A lot of people didn't believe me. They were like, you're going to go and what? You're going to go and relocate to Portsmouth and buy your first place? I said, yep, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go and buy a flat. And I was like, okay. I think a lot of them thought, okay, we'll see you in like 6 months then.
You'll be coming back. Calling back.
But bought that one. And I think when I was in that one, that's when I sort of realised that I've probably got a bit of a knack to understanding the market and the financial side of it. And I enjoyed looking at the sort of finances behind it and the property market, and just thought, you know what? I could actually do something with this. Yeah. So what was that? I was probably about 24 at the time. Wow. So it was 24 was when I sort of thought, look, you can
do something here.
Do something with property, I think. So it's not like a lot of, you know what I say to a lot of people, I get questions all the time from anything from sort of 14, 15 to 18, 19, 20 year olds, all saying, look, I want to get involved in property. I want to become a property investor. What do I do? And sometimes I just want to say, look, you don't have to do anything now. Like saving up is obviously key, and hopefully everyone is going to know if you want to get involved in property, you're going to have to save up.
Yeah, exactly. Money. There's got to be some money behind it.
Exactly, whether it's yours or investors or whatever. But it's the safe bet is using your own. It's probably easier doing it that way. So save up. But as I say, I didn't make the decision until I was 24. So there's a lot of time to play with. I think there's a lot of, as I said earlier, there's a lot of different avenues into it. So
definitely,
I literally stumbled into it, and haven't looked back since.
That's crazy. I feel like everyone sort of wants to get into property now. It seems like a bit of a booming thing to do. Do you find that people super young, actually, is there any tips for people who are quite young who are looking into it? Which is amazing to think that people that young are already thinking about that. In reality, or like, you know, in the normal world or whatever, is people, you know, there's stages to life, whereas some people are thinking that far ahead. Are there any tips that you'd give younger people to get into property? Obviously, first is saving. Is there any other things that you've learned along the journey?
Rule one is start saving as young as you can. And I know for a lot of people, I think some people might look at, especially my steps, because I'm quite honest about what I've done. They might sort of look at it and think, well, that's not achievable for me. And I think a lot of it's scaling to what you can actually do. There's no point setting targets in line with similar to what I've done or anyone else on social media or whoever it is. It's got to be tailored to yourself. So if you can save up £200 a month, great. If you can only save up 50, that's still great. It might take you a little bit longer, or you might have to look in a different area. But obviously savings key, as you said. I think for some people it sounds like a cop out, but you just got to do your research, and that is honestly, that is so key. I think a lot of people think, well, it's an overnight process, or you can just look online and write, you're a property investor, you're a developer, but it's really not like that. Like, I've made so many mistakes. Not all of them sort of they haven't cost me thousands of pounds, but silly things like, anecdotally, I was living in South London, knew that I wanted to get on the property ladder, and I thought, right, well, I know that roughly you can get a mortgage for around about 4.5 times your salary. I was like, I know that. Didn't really take into account sort of other variables around the process of getting a mortgage and how much money you need for a deposit and solicitors and stamp duty, blah, blah, blah. So I just went out and started looking at properties, and there was a few round by where my parents used to live in sort of South London, looked predominantly around sort of Croydon area. And I was looking at properties on Rightmove and going to viewings and thinking, I could do this. And then there was one estate agent, I think it was, who said, oh, and you've got your AIP. And I was like, what the hell is an AIP? Which is like schoolboy, that's a schoolboy error. Like, you should know what an AIP is if you're going to go and buy a house. Well, most people are going to need to get a mortgage, so they should know what an AIP is. I didn't. I was looking at properties. I spoke to a mortgage advisor after I'd viewed about 3 or 4, and basically found out quite bluntly that I wasn't going to be able to afford anything in and around Croydon, just because my salary and my deposit wasn't anywhere near what it needed to be. So that was kind of a kick in the nuts for me. I was like, well, I can't afford anything. What am I going to do? So I had to do my research. So bringing it back to your question, I had to do my research, and I started looking at different areas. I looked at, obviously, Portsmouth, which is where I'm living now, but I had to relocate. So I had to research both areas in terms of where I could afford, research my affordability, again, which is really important. So I'd suggest doing that. Not if you're young and you're not going to be buying anytime soon. It's probably more towards your year before, 2 years before buying. Research your affordability if you're living in it, or if it's a buy-to-let investment or whatever it is. That's as simple as speaking to a mortgage advisor, financial advisors. There's plenty of free ones. You can go online and find them. There's probably some that are probably local to a lot of people. So speak to as many people as you can. I think that's another one. So do your research and speak to all the right people, whether it's financial advisors, estate agents, other property investors. Speak to me, like send me an Instagram message. That's what I'm there for.
I think it's the right thing to do, just to talk to as many people as you can about what you're trying to do, because especially with people who have experience in it, they're probably not going to shut you off. They want to hear your ideas and see if it's viable, because I can imagine there definitely is a wrong way to do these things, and it's probably, if the red flags are showing, you'd rather know about those red flags a lot earlier than not talking to anyone, keeping this hidden, then suddenly
taking a wrong turn. You buy something you shouldn't have bought, or and you know what, it's the financial side right through to, it could be excuse me, it could be like you bought a house, didn't get a survey, and it's actually got subsidence in it. Like there's that side of it. You could have bought in the wrong area, that actually, if you're trying to resell it, you might put an offer in because you think it's cheap, but actually there's a reason it's so cheap, because no one's going to buy it. So when it comes to reselling it, if you're flipping it, then you've got to research the areas that are selling well or renting well, if that's what you want to do. So there's definitely pitfalls to fall into. I think where you said there's ways to do it wrong, there definitely are ways to do it wrong, but there are so many different ways to do it right.
Yeah, I think there's
sounds
so many,
like a cliche,
but there's so many options to it.
Yeah. There's, and like for example, I started by living in, or I still do it now. I live in all the places that I renovate. Not everyone's going to like that. Not everyone's going to be able to do that, but that works for me. Mm-hmm. Similarly, if someone came along with my circumstances and said, look, I don't want to live in it. I want to buy it, live in my own flat while I rent in my flat, or buy another place, and then renovate that one, which I don't live in. I've got no sort of residential ties to it. It's purely sort of a profit for money. You can do that as well. You can invest further away from where you live. You can invest abroad. You can use investors' money. You could save up and buy it outright with no mortgage. There's so many different ways to do it, and there's so many different ways to sort of be as involved as you want to be. That's what I think. There is a wrong way. You're right, but there's so many different ways of doing it right that for a lot of people coming and asking the questions, as you said, if you're young, what advice would you give them? I just think there is so many different options available. You've just got to find what works for you.
Yeah, I suppose it's very situational. I suppose it's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
Depending on your circumstances, not only financially, but risk tolerance in some regard, and there's so many different things.
That's a big one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I think that's nailed on the head for a lot of people. It's taking that first step. I think there's a lot of people probably got it all in order. Everything's lined up, ready to go, and it might just be that
terrifying.
I don't know if I want to do it. What if I cock something up or screw something up? But I think there's an element where you're just going to have to take that jump, take that leap. And so long as you've spoken to the right people, you've done your research, all that sort of stuff. How was
that jump for you then when you first did it?
I never know what risk, if I'm risk averse or the opposite. So I quite like a risk.
Yeah.
So I don't want to seem sort of complacent or a bit bullish, but I just I just took it as it came. I didn't really think too much about it. I jumped into the deep end. I think I told you, as I said, I was looking in South London. I knew I was going to buy somewhere. I ended up coming down to Portsmouth probably about 6-7 months before I ended up buying, living on the floor. This is the less glamorous side of what property was like for me.
But people need to know that.
Yeah, right? you know what, I was speaking to a mate about this the other day, and he said, you should do a video on this because it's really interesting. So yeah, my lead up to it was less than straightforward. So I was living at home, decided to up sticks, quit my job, come down to Portsmouth, living on the floor of my mate's house, not too far away from here again. Literally living on the floor on a sort of a mat and a sleeping bag, while I was out looking for properties. I still had a full-time job, so I managed to find a job down here. I didn't just go, right, I'm moving. I did find somewhere that I was going to move to, so I was going to live with my mates. Yeah. And I had a job, so I had an income. It wasn't just like, right, I'm going to go and buy a house.
Bugger everything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's got to be systems in place to make sure that you don't actually end up everything going wrong. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, just for clarity, disclaimer: it wasn't just that I completely left everything. There was an outline of a plan, but it was still involved. Yeah, as I say, living on the floor, scrimping, sort of even something ridiculous. Well, I say ridiculous. Even something as simple as going to the shops and buying stuff that was reduced. Like money was really tight when I was buying the first place. I knew how much I needed for my deposit down here. I knew roughly what I was going to spend on a place. I knew what mortgage I had agreed based on my salary, both back at home and my new salary down here. So I always knew roughly what I was doing, but it still it was still very tight, and it was a learning curve. So that was the less glamorous side. I'd say I was living on the floor for about 2 months. And in the end, the guy who I was living on the floor of his room, he ended up being my lodger in my first flat.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he helped with the bills. Obviously, it can be quite tight, especially if it's your first purchase. There's a lot of sort of learning as you go, so realizing, right, I might have spent this amount on this when I was living at home, but actually I've got a mortgage now, so I can't do that anymore. So and he helped. He was my mate. He lived with me. He got a house or a place to live with his mate and preferential rent, and I had someone to help me pay the bills. So it kind of helped both of us.
All worked out, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that answers it really.
So let's talk about this place then, because obviously, when you started, or when your TikTok, actually, when did your TikTok really sort of, or social media really become, you were getting a lot of traction? When did that happen? Was it when you first started doing this sort of series, or was it beforehand?
I think, it goes in sort of like fits and starts. So it kind of, I've probably in the first sort of 4 or 5 months, I was floating in around about sort of, I always go by followers if that's probably the best gauge, but probably around about 60, 70,000 followers. And that wasn't really anything to do with sort of renovations. That was more that the first thing that really sort of caught people's attention was tips for first time buyers.
Okay, yeah.
So if you're going out for viewings, and it was mainly around viewings actually, but if you're going out for a viewing, what should you look for? So
so really just pure like educational in some regards.
Yeah.
Just teaching people.
Yeah, predominantly. Yeah. So I can remember a few that did really well. So one was check the water pressure when you're walking around the house, because the last thing you want is like a tap that drips or a shower that doesn't work properly. Another one was check for damp. You can visually see it. Sort of check the loft if there's a leak coming through. Loads of different things. Check for windows that have failed, so that double glazing that doesn't work. They were really sort of anecdotal, small snippets type videos. And they were getting sort of like 60, 70,000 views. People really responded well to them. So my following sort of shot up with that. And I just trialed lots of different things really, and I still do now. So one that did really well was sort of different houses around the country that are worth £1 million. Literally just a right
Actually, I think I do remember that series. Yeah. It was just looking different towns or cities and looking at what you get from
what's
£1 million
available.
quid.
Yeah. And I think that opens eyes to people who are maybe wanting to get into property and they don't know much about areas and how much properties are worth in different areas. So that kind of, I think that gauged or that got a lot of people's interest. So that did quite well. And then, I think this year, this calendar year, so from January onwards, obviously I've had the house, I've carried on doing those sort of tip videos and educational videos. And then, the before and after, sort of actually getting the keys to this place. And then it was 24 weeks because of the videos that I did, 24 weeks, weekly updates of, ripping everything out in here, getting people around, changing windows, everything, the whole renovation, warts and all, how much everything cost.
I think that really helped, by the way, the clarity that you gave on how much things cost.
Yeah.
I think for people who are, first time buyers or want to renovate a place and they've got no bloody clue how much things cost or what to do. And even just sharing the price, I think I definitely found that really interesting. The fact that I could understand, because, like how much do I pay for a kitchen unit or something? You could look it up, but, not only that is the people who come to fit it, make sure everything's working. Yeah.
I think it's a transparency, isn't it? I think you can go online and, as you say, you can find like a rough cost for certain things, but when you can visualize exactly what you're getting for that amount of money, I think that's what people have found helpful. As you say, you could go on, someone could come to me and say, how much is a bathroom going to cost? And I could say to them, $2,500. That you don't know what it's going to look like. It might be really small. It might have like all white tiles. Some people might love all white tiles, but it might be all white, painted white suite. And that's, if you want a really sort of pucker bathroom, you're not going to get that for $2,500. Yeah. Whereas I've sort of said exactly how much different things are broken down, where I bought them from, how much it was for labour. So I think that's why people have liked that part of that series. I think as you say, sort of visualising it, and sort of learning firsthand exactly what you can get for your money, basically.
Yeah, definitely. So for how long did this actually take to completely renovate this place and gut it out and get it all done?
I got the keys in February, 2nd of Feb, and then there's still little bits that need doing now. We won't show everyone on camera, but there's still little things that need doing. I can probably notice it more than other people, but I still see it and I think, right, I need to do that. So, but no, the majority of it was probably done by middle of July. So we're talking about half a year. Yeah. Bearing in mind, this isn't my full-time job. I do have a full-time job as well. So project managing it, I was really, I say lucky, sort of. We had lockdown. There was a lot of working from home. So project managing from home, I could sit up there, do all my work, come downstairs, have a look at what people were doing. If I had a tradesperson in, finish work at 5, 4:30, go downstairs, carry on painting, carry on ripping stuff out, tiling, flooring, whatever it was. So that side has really helped it. It might have taken another 2 or 3 months if I wasn't able to work from home. Yeah. But I'd say it's about 6 months in total.
That's awesome. And I'd love to know some tips for people who want to do, because TikTok is such a vast thing now, or social media, where, recently I saw someone who's started to become very popular because he measures stairs, and people find that incredibly interesting, and it's on my For You page, and more power to them. It's just interesting. Okay. So I'm just showing how vast, how much communities
niches,
there are.
Isn't it?
Yeah, niches, that's the right word. And is there any tips that you've learned for that social media side? Because obviously you're in marketing, so you do know that sort of side. Are there any things for people who want to use their niche and then elevate that and promote themselves on a place like TikTok?
Yeah, it's a good question actually. I'm still learning, I think, put the disclaimer out there again, but things that I found really work is if you've got, well, first of all, more generally, if you've got like a topic, I think it's really helpful if you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people maybe try sort of different areas that maybe they don't fully understand, or they do it because they're good at it, or because they know, I don't know, it pays the bills or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
If you're not passionate about it, I truly believe, I think it is a bit of a cliche, but a lot of people say if you're not passionate, you're probably not going to make it in that area, because you've got to basically, I have it now where I wake up and think, right, I really can't wait to find my next property. And I'd love to be able to document it and show it off as well. So I'm really lucky. As you said, they go hand in hand.
You've got that fire in your belly to keep creating, which is, I think, is for a lot of people, if they don't have that, they're not going to carry it on. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Struggle.
Absolutely.
How much did it cost to, actually, for the kitchen and the dining area, was these like 2 rooms?
Yeah.
And you've smashed through it?
Yeah.
How was that process? Was it
this isn't for the podcast.
Well, it can go in. I'm just asking personally.
Yeah, no, but you can include it in there. Okay. I just wanted to be completely honest with you. So, you know what? Without my notes in front of me, I don't want to give like the wrong figures. But so there was a wall here.
Yeah.
This was knocked through. That was probably about, you had to get structural engineer out. You had to get steel calculations to work out what goes. So basically, there's a big steel beam that goes in there.
Yeah, because I think I remember watching a TikTok where you said there was like it was a structure or something that was holding up the house you had to take basically, down.
So this is like an extension. This is an old extension.
Yeah.
So this is sort of standing freely.
Gotcha.
Well, sort of. There's another beam. I won't bore you, but there's another. This would basically stand up freely.
Yeah.
But that wall held up the house, the back end of the house.
Yeah.
So you can't just rip a wall out, because otherwise the whole back of the house will fall over.
Be buggered, yeah.
So you got to get a structural engineer around, which a few £100. They provide calculations and sort of graphs and pictures and what it should look like, what steel should go in. Then you get the council around. They charge a few £100 just to basically say, yeah, we're happy with you to do it. Then you get the builders around who buy the steel, put the steel in, build it up, all the plinths, and you've got a sort of different brickwork going in there. I won't tell you what all the stuff is. But plasterboard, you got plasterboard over the steel to make sure it's all fire resistant and stuff. So yeah, the whole project for the wall, that's the biggest project I've sort of had in a renovation.
It sounds like it was like a serious calculations and all sorts.
Yeah, I wouldn't say worried, but that's the one thing I thought, shit, man, if that goes wrong, that's the whole house. I mean, exactly. It's bread and water for these guys. They know what they're doing. They do it every day. But I thought, oh my God, the back of my house is being knocked through. So
if it goes wrong, it's going to go wrong. Yeah.
So that was a big project. But then everything else was pretty straightforward. The kitchen was probably about $4,500 for everything, including sort of fridge, freezer, dishwasher, washing machine, everything built in. And then about another £1,200 to install it all.
Okay.
Flooring as well. I think I put the video out for the whole of this space, the kitchen diner, including plastering, paint and everything, was about £10,000.
Okay.
So it's it's a big old job.
Yeah.
But the before and afters were.
I was about to say I'll put them up on the screen now for people to see. I haven't seen them myself, but I can imagine the fact that I can, just imagine a wall here that's going to be pretty...
Absolutely.
A more awesome reveal to see once it's all finished.
Absolutely. I think the main thing is when I bought the place, I didn't think about knocking it through. It was actually my girlfriend came up with a great idea. She's like, why don't you knock that through?
Yeah, because it's open plan is a big thing now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like modern living sort of thing.
Absolutely.
So I can imagine...
So it was walking through that door. You've got the double doors there. They've always been there. But there was a big wall here that blocked it. So the first thing you saw was just a really dark room.
Yeah, and I suppose it adds a lot of light into the kitchen now because of that.
That's it. And she was like, you should just knock it through. I was like, easy as that, is it?
Yeah, I was about to say, get a sledgehammer.
Yeah, we'll do it ourselves.
Exactly, yeah. That's the one thing you don't want to do DIY.
Absolutely not. Disclaimer, do not knock down walls, people. Don't just attack your mum and dad's house.
Get a professional.
But it's turned out really well. So I'm happy with that one. Yeah. It's definitely one of the better parts of the renovation.
And for the garden as well, how long did that process take? Because I think I do remember it was a bit of a state when you first had it, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was. So the garden used to be twice the width.
Oh,
you
might
have seen in some of the pictures or videos that there is a garage and there's a garden as well behind the garage. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in there, boats and cars.
I think I remember actually seeing a video. There's a boat there.
The video, so the garden renovation or transformation video has got something ridiculous, like 10 million views.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is because the transformation, the cost as well, people are blown away by how much it costs. And just, there's a boat next door. So I think some people are like, why is there a boat? What's going on there?
Of all the things that could be there.
Yeah. So, it was a big job. And like that did involve landscapers. And I say now, because it's one thing, it's the bane of my life at the moment. People don't realise how much gardens cost.
Yeah.
From materials through to labour. And I am a prime example of this. Like I can say this because I've lived it. So I came into the house, or having bought the house, with about a $2,000 budget
for the garden.
For out there. That was for everything. And I had about 4 or 5 landscapers come round, might have been a bit more in the end. And every single one of them, when they said, well, how much have you got to play with? I said, about $2,000. Like 2 or 3 at least just laughed at me.
I was about to say, laughed in your face.
Laughed at me. They were like, we're not trying to be rude, but you're so far off on that, you're not going to get anywhere with $2,000.
What was the actual price?
So it was about, in total, including removing everything, ripping up loads of concrete. It was about $6,000 for everything. So ripping everything out, leveling off. Like, don't underestimate how much stuff goes into leveling off a garden. Yeah. Well, in this one specific, some people might have a really flat garden that's fine, but I had to rip out loads of concrete, level everything, put some topsoil down, some MOT type 1, which is like some like rubble basically to level everything off. Yeah, they got all the strings out to make sure it was all straight. Basically, so the garden used to be like that towards the house.
It's like a slope, yeah.
So all the water used to come towards the house, and so all around here was damp, so it had to be all leveled out. The paving, I was going to get cheap paving, and I was talked into getting more expensive paving because apparently it lasts longer. So yeah, all in all, probably about $6,000 to do it, including all the turf and everything. Yeah. And when they said that, I was like, I haven't budgeted for this.
I was about to say, yeah.
I haven't budgeted. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford this. So I was going to do it as one of the first jobs because you don't want to rip everything out, have a nice house, and then have to drag it all through your nice house.
And ruin it all, yeah.
So I was like, I'll probably try and do that first. And I thought, look, I haven't got the money to do it first. So I still save now, but I had to save up a bit more and get it done. But I think it's worth it. Like, when they came around, they said, look, you might be spending about $5,000 on the garden, but you could add $10,000 to the value.
I was about to say, what is the most valuable thing to renovate rather than someone renovating the entire place itself? Is there a certain area that you would recommend for people to go to? Because I would say the kitchen. Yeah. But because obviously that's people spend a lot of time there. But I don't know. What would you? It's
a good shout. I probably agree with you. I think kitchen or bathroom, they're probably if you're doing internally, kitchen and bathrooms are always going to be the most expensive because you've got suites and furniture and units and fridge freezers exactly. If you're getting built-in stuff. So yeah, I think if you're looking for something like a project in a room, probably one of those two. Bear in mind, you probably spend anywhere from $3,000 to the kitchen itself, $5,000, maybe under for both, or maybe.
Does that include flooring and stuff like that?
Flooring, yeah. I mean, again, it depends on what you get flooring wise. You could probably budget around about sort of £200-300 a room for flooring. Okay. Yeah. Whether it's laminate or carpet. Some people hate laminate. Some people don't mind it. I get laminate because it looks alright. It's cheap. It does the job and it's easy to clean. And for me, where it might be a rental or selling it quickly, it's just easier to do it.
It works, yeah.
So yeah, I'd say, back to your question, I'd say kitchen and bathroom, but again, some people might not have sort of $3-4,000 lying around
to play with, yeah.
So if I'd say things like if you've got damp or you've got windows that need attention, like failed double glazing, so you might look for a window and it's like really hazy, and if that's like the front of your house, the first window you see, and you've got horrible windows, people might go, oh, I don't like that, like that's a bit gross. Yeah, exactly. And you can probably get them fixed sometimes for a few £100. Okay. So little things like that. But if you're going to do a room, then definitely a kitchen and bathroom. I think if you go through the kitchen first in the house, you probably want to do that because it might be one of the first things that people see. Yeah, exactly. They might go, I love that kitchen. Like I could see myself
have a lasting first impression.
That's
of
it.
Those things. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
What is the plan for this place? And is this going to be like a buy to let, or are you going to flip it, or what's the plan?
You're getting exclusive.
Oh, crikey!
I've done a video that I haven't put out yet. Yeah. But, so the plan was always to rent it out. Okay. But like a lot of the UK at the moment, the property market has just gone because of stamp duty, holiday, and all that sort of stuff. So I will always be doing another renovation after the previous one. So I'm going to want to do another one next. Yeah. And I thought, well, maybe I could sell it instead of renting it out. Okay. Because then I could recoup the money that I've invested and the profit and put it straight into the next one. But I've had people round, so I've made a video on estate agents coming around and doing their thing. And yeah, I think realistically with the money that's in it, it's probably better to just rent it out.
Okay.
And then just recoup some of the money when refinancing and then moving on to the next one, which is going to be, I put it on some of my channels, but I'm going to do like an Airbnb style renovation.
I thought like a project. Yeah, that's awesome.
So more sort of high end. This is, I mean, it's still nice, but probably go for sort of more high end stuff, sort of nice flooring, nice lights, and yeah, do like an Airbnb project with the money that I take out of this one.
Definitely. Is that a so obviously I know Airbnb is massive now. Is that a big thing that a lot of people are going into, sort of an Airbnb renting out for tourists and stuff?
I don't know. It seems like it. I think the only problem that I've found, and again, it's all a learning curve. Like I've been going to viewings for mainly flats, and they're all South Sea. So, which is sort of the nicer. I say nicer. I shouldn't say nicer. It's the what can I say? The more sort of like touristy area of Portsmouth. You sort of got the beach. You've got like a lot of like naval stuff. You've got like great bars, clubs, restaurants. So I'd like to buy. Well, I've had an offer accepted on a flat, which is sort of more sort of idyllic area of sort of Portsmouth. So it's got a good sort of balcony and overview of sort of the South Sea. So I thought, look, if people are going to come down, and you've got things like Victoria's Festival, which you may or may not have heard of, but that's sort of grown recently. You've got Isle of Wight Festival, where people come down to sort of get the ferry across. Universities here, and Portsmouth as a city sort of. This is my plug for Portsmouth, by the way. You probably can tell. Portsmouth's sort of growing. So if you want to come down to Portsmouth, come and visit and stay in my Airbnb.
Yeah, exactly. This is the plug to go.
So there's an Airbnb you might go to stay in about 6 months' time. So no, I just thought, look, it's a good area. Airbnb, especially with what's happening in the world at the moment. A lot of people can't travel abroad. Yeah,
that's very true. And some people, they can't travel abroad, but they will still want to go, have a little holiday, come down to the seaside. It's ideal, really. Yeah,
that's it. Exactly.
Especially people being cooped up for so long. Yeah, they probably do want to just go find somewhere new or go back to the place that they like.
That's it. Yeah, staycation, isn't it? A lot of people, exactly. That's what I want to do. So I thought, why not try and get involved in it? And the thing is, if it does well, the Airbnb, then great. It can. I've heard it can be quite lucrative. I don't really know too much about the figures. I will do sort of when the purchase goes through, but the safety net is I could always rent it out if it doesn't do well as an Airbnb. So it's kind of hopefully a win-win. But we'll see. It's a new project, as I've said. I think I like doing new things, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah, might go well.
In regards to the future, obviously you said you want to get into the Airbnb for the social media side and the business side and the property guy side. What's the plan with that?
You know what? I was asked that the other day. It's
got to come up with an answer now.
I know, it's hard because like I enjoy doing it. This isn't me saying I don't want to do it anymore, but like I enjoy doing it, and I think I'm kind of riding the wave at the moment. Like it's doing well. I enjoy putting the videos out, but I haven't really got plans with it. I think
I'll see how it goes.
Really. I think people are responding really well to what I'm putting out at the moment. I'm going to continue to do that side of it. If something crops up and it's, I don't know, whether it's like something like this, a podcast or something involving, I don't know, other creators, or it's a different platform, or people say you should do like YouTube. I think because there's a lot of content that I put out, and you could go into a lot of detail with it, as we're finding out now. Like there's a lot of stuff you can talk about around it. So maybe like a YouTube channel. Oh, wow. But like, I don't know, like say like Homes Under the Hammer came along tomorrow and like we want to do like an online version of Homes Under the Hammer. Why don't do you want to get involved with it? Yeah. Like that would be something like that would be quite cool. I'll take it as it comes. I think people talk about like clothing lines and I don't know, like selling courses, merch, like courses. I put something out again the other day and someone asked a question like, will you do courses? Because like it could be quite valuable. Yeah. And I from where I've come from, I've always set this up to sort of provide help for people and stuff. So making money of it, making money out of this sort of thing, like I'd be really careful about what I do. I don't want to exploit people. I think that what I'm doing should be, I think for a lot of it should be taught at school. So I think making money out of certain areas of this, I just wouldn't feel right doing it. So I will be quite selective about what I do. But I'll take it wherever it can go, really. There's not many things that would faze me or I would be put off by. So we'll just see.
I do agree with you with that school comment, because I feel like there's so many things that are taught in school that don't translate into real life. Yeah. And it just seems so strange how we're not taught about these things. And and I completely agree that you shouldn't have to pay for knowledge that. I thought it was a ghost then.
Yeah, there is one of them as well. There's a ghost here. To work around him. Yeah,
there's the garden to itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I do agree with you. I think it should be something that is free and taught in schools.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's why. That is one of the reasons why I started doing what I was doing, because I wanted to do something productive. I think when you're going through COVID and we were all in lockdown, I think it really sort of shone a light on, with things like the NHS and key workers. People were going out of their way to help people, and I was just like, I felt not helpless, but I was like in a little 1-bed flat, and I was like, what can I do that can provide some value, keep me entertained for a little while sort of purchases are going through that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously around my full-time job as well. So the main reason for setting it up was just to sort of provide a bit of like a public service, really. Be that person that someone could go to and go, look, I've got a question, can I ask you about it? That's what it was there for. So for them to go to full circle and provide this content at a cost or a price for someone, it would just feel a bit weird. It would just feel like I didn't do it for this. So
in some regard,
so definitely. I wouldn't. And as the whole school thing, I think absolutely. I think maybe not the investment side. I think if you want to learn to invest, then say I was going to do a course, I would do a course on that side 100%, because you're taking sort of the owning a property for personal benefit, so somewhere to live and making money out of it, and I think that's where you probably start charging.
I think there's more of a justification for that, rather than I'm going to teach you how to survive, live in a house or something. Exactly.
Here's what a mortgage is. I don't think you can't charge for that. I feel like that's the sort of thing you should learn when you're a kid, or at least sort of teenager. So I think I just got to be quite careful. So going back to the whole, what would you do? Answers on a postcard, like anything, podcast, anything. I'll take it as it comes.
Definitely. I truly appreciate your time, Kyle. Sorry, is there anything or anyone you want to shout out?
Shout out? No, I'll plug myself. If you don't already follow That Property Guy. I don't know. I look forward to sort of seeing it come out. I think I don't know. Do you revisit? Do you go and do new ones, or like? As in, if you've had someone on a podcast, would you go and do it again?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did one with a shout out Tim if you're watching, the guy who's an editor.
Yeah.
And when I was interviewing him, we did it over Zoom because we were in lockdown, and he was in the midst of doing I didn't really understand it, but it sounded very interesting. He's doing he's doing work for Apple TV Plus of something like 3D interactive movie or something like that.
Oh wow.
So I reckon once that, I think he said it's going to be done sometime within the end of this year or the start of next year. So I'm probably going to revisit that as well. Cool. So I mean, if you want to do the
I was just saying, you can come down and stay in the Airbnb if you want.
Yeah, exactly, and see how that went. But how long does that process take? You say about 6 months. Is that what you said?
I think this one, hopefully, I'll be sort of by summer next year. So because the purchase is going through now, it's a leasehold. So hopefully by next year. I'll plug my Airbnb for the future, depending on when you're watching this. But no, you can come down and have a look at the Airbnb, or I think
it'd be awesome. Go through the costs again and see how things went. And I suppose if that's what people want to get into, especially with growing cities and towns, that you need Airbnbs for tourists to stay in. I think that'd be awesome for people to see living proof of someone doing it.
That's it. It's another sort of venture, isn't it? It's like, I think a lot of people might not think about it, but if it's something you're interested in, then stay tuned for it.
I really appreciate it, mate.
No worries. Cheers, James. Thanks for inviting me on.
Part 2 soon.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you.